There's relief in Niger State as the remaining 130 persons who were abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School, Papiri in Niger State, have regained their freedom. This is exactly 2 weeks after the first batch of 100 abductees were released from captivity. The 130 persons were presented to Governor Mohammed Bago at Government House, Minna, by the representative of the National Security Advisor, Major General Adamu Laka. Joining us live from Niger State for more on the release of the school children is Arise correspondent Charles Eruka. Good morning, Charles. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Lagos.
Excellent. All right, Charles, can you just share with us, I know yesterday the media aide to the principal of the school was talking about receiving the children, whether or not they've been handed over from the governor to the school and then, of course, onward to their parents. Has this happened, and have you been able to speak to any of the parents at this time?
It hasn't happened yet because the children and the other abductees are here in Minna, the state capital. But the itinerary is that today they will be moved from Minna to Kontagora, where they'll be handed over to the proprietor of the institution of the school, and onward to Papiri, where the children and the staff members who were abducted along with them will now be handed over to their families. So that is what the situation is like today. Of course, we don't have any of the parents, at least to the best of my knowledge, we don't have any of the parents here in Minna because they will be over there in Papiri community to receive their children, their wards, and family members when they are finally brought back to them today. So we've not had that opportunity of having a conversation with them because they are not within reach at the moment, but hopefully as the day progresses, we will have more information on that, where they are, and then hopefully too we should be able to have that conversation with the members of the families of the hostages that have just been released.
Right, Charles, let's talk about numbers. They said they've released 130. By some calculation, I think Chidion Igalu referenced this, a couple of other people have talked about it. They're saying we still have some students remaining. What is going on? Have all the students that have even been released before now been matched with their parents? What's the data syncing like between the parents and the students that have been released? Thirdly, what has the school said? Is this the full complement of everybody released? And can they also update us on the data set of those that were kidnapped initially?
All right. So, Rufa, it's been a game of numbers. There is a discrepancy somewhere, discrepancy cropped up somewhere. So let's run through the numbers again. 315 persons were said to have been abducted. Then 50 of those children escaped from captivity. Afterwards, on the 8th of December, 100 were released, making it 150. Yesterday, we now had 130 released. So that makes it 280, leaving us with a deficit of 35. So what happened to the remaining 35 if everybody has been released from captivity? Now, between when these school children and members of staff of their school were abducted and the first release, which happened on the 8th of December, you know, they were abducted on the 21st, and then the first batch was released on the 8th of December. Now, within those 2 odd weeks, a lot of things happened. There was improper documentation, that's what I gathered. And then there was a lot of misinformation because, you know, there are different channels of communication, and we had lots of misinformation passing from one channel to the other. And that is why we now had a discrepancy. But then as for the details, you know, the details in themselves, no one has been able to explain to us why we had that discrepancy. But from what I gathered, some of the parents were asked to come forward to explain whether or not their children are safe. Many of those parents either did not get the information or were reluctant to come forward for personal security reasons. At the end of the day, some children that were probably not abducted were actually documented as abducted. So these are some of the reasons given as to why we have a larger number of those who have been abducted and then a smaller number by comparison of those who have been released. What we know for sure, what we've been told, is that there is no one in captivity at the moment. But not until we are able to get to Papiri community, then we'll have a clearer picture as far as this game of numbers is concerned.
Well, definitely, Charles. Thank you very much for this update. I mean, definitely this is going to be a cause of concern, being that there's clearly a discrepancy here with 35 still unaccounted for. That being said, there's clearly going to be palpable celebration in Niger State, most especially in Papiri, with the confirmed release or recapture or the saving of the people who we do know have been safely taken by the government. I know you said that at this point they haven't been able to speak publicly, that is the children who were kidnapped, also their families. But if you could speculate, I know just as rule of thumb, we shouldn't really be speculating, but because we haven't been able to hear from them directly as yet, do you suspect that the reason why we haven't been able to speak to them, especially the ones who were released before now, is that because they are unwilling to talk to the public? Do you feel as though there's a lack of willingness for them to share their experiences? Or do you think this is coming from the state and perhaps even federal government? Because it would be useful actually to hear what their experiences were like, find out how it happened, how they felt when they were first captured, what information they had, if at all, what type of abuse they were exposed to when they were captured. So can you talk to us about why it is we can't hear from them directly as yet?
At the moment, they are in, quotes, the custody of officials of the Office of the National Security Advisor, who handed them over to the state government. So technically they are in the custody of the state government now. They cannot speak on their own as long as they are in the custody of the state government. Therefore, it is the state government that will be, it's the state government talking to us at the moment. So what we know comes from the Office of the National Security Advisor and the national state government. So not until when they are handed over to the authorities of the school from where they were abducted in Kontagora today, and then later in the day, hopefully, when they'll be handed over to their families, that is probably when they would have the freedom to share their experiences. But now that they are still in the custody of the state government, they are not at liberty to speak to the media at the moment.
All right, thank you. That's very useful information. We look forward to updates once, as you've given us outlined the itinerary for them, once they've been handed over to the proprietor and then further on to their parents. Hopefully, we also have an opportunity to get the state of the children. We'd asked earlier for the last released children whether they were going through psychological support, just that therapy for them, having gone through that kind of experience. Well, thank you very much for your time with us, Charles. That's been very informative.